Harima's taken over. She is now the most feared champion in Arena, and it's pretty self-explanatory. She has a passive that's out of this world. She's a really strong kit against what's considered to be the Arena meta at the moment, so what are we supposed to do about it? Let's dive straight into it. What up team, it's Murderink. We are on the test server talking about the new Shadowkin, Harima, how strong she is, and how to counter her. Right. So here we have this new champion. No one was really expecting a champion like this to come into the game, and it's completely shaken things up. So I made an initial video about it after testing for a few hours. Now I have many hours of testing with some of my clan mates who are also content creators, and we've really figured out all of the ins and outs to this champion, where she shines, where she doesn't shine. So this is going to be a really cool video to show you guys that you don't just have to skip this champion if you see it. In fact, there are even some ways to farm a team with Harima in it based on how someone would build the champion very, very quickly. So the first thing I want to talk about is going to be, where does she shine? It's pretty self-explanatory. The fact that savage geared nukers have been the meta for probably since the start of the game, I don't know. That's a pretty clear counter to this champion. So with that being said, we're going to fight my clan mate and fellow content creator, Mad Rats here, who is using the new champion against a typical offense team that is very, very hard to not farm any team in the game. Now, of course, there are variations of this, and there are a bunch of different presets that you would use to make sure you have the highest chance of winning. Rotos, one of the strongest offensive tools in the game. Baron, after his buff, crazy insane buff, making Sky Piercer something you can just use. Very, very strong. So let's see how we do against this team here. I could usually just auto this pretty consistently, and it would take, I don't know, a minute tops. Now let's go and see how we do against a team like this. So as we can see already, we are refreshing cooldowns, and not much has happened. Granted, I did get the cooldown lock. That already happened to me. And I mean, listen, Rotos is going to win eventually. There's just no getting around it. He's going to use his A2 enough. It's going to become a block revive, and it's game, set, match. But the fact that we've only managed to kill one champion, and it's now 40 seconds in, and the rest of the champions are full health. I mean, even with that kill there, we're basically dealing no damage to these champions because Harima is standing tall and proud. So while we're still going to be able to manage to get a nice kill off here, no sheeps were procced, and I know there are sheeps on this team here. Rotos just got petrified, Baron just got petrified. We haven't really seen too much of that in this fight so far. So this is approaching one of the higher thresholds of a team that can withstand the offense we're using here today. So the final numbers in, a minute and 20 seconds. For champions, I mean, he has +4 champions, +3 champions, Awakened, of course, Harima. Since we are on the test server, is not Awakened, there's no plus anything to the champion, which we would likely see in live servers. These champions are geared very, very well, and so are my offense champions. I have a +4 Rotos that's very strong. My Baron, he's only +1 to Awakening, but he has pretty decent gear on him for sure. So the fact that they're not just one-shotting this team is kind of crazy. So to even take that to the next level, where we would use something like my clanmate Smiley here, who has a very common Mortal Macabre. Mortal Macabre has slowly crept up through this RNG based meta here, and he's proving to be a massive problem for a lot of teams. So what would I do here? This is something where I'm probably more inclined to get rid of a few things from my team here. Don't need a Warlord because they have a Warlord. I'm probably looking at a Cupidus angle for sure. With Cupidus, of course, we have to use the one and only Venus. Where are you, Venus? Right here, plus nothing. And then we're probably just going to throw in, we're not too worried about debuffs, we're going to get locked out for sure. So we can see if we can accuracy check this Warlord with the Mithrala and see if we can get a little bit more survivability done here. So let's see how we fare against Harima, again from a clanmate of mine who's going to have very strong gear for sure. Okay, so we got locked out. She did not get locked out as anticipated. So let's have a look. Hopefully these champions are geared. That is one thing that I hadn't considered until now. And based on the damage I'm seeing, I think he's missing a couple pieces. The last time I tried this, I was missing gloves, but the point's pretty much going to stay the same here. A properly geared Cupidus just shreds teams like this, because they're constantly, like you can see, proccing his AoE over and over again, and it's a real issue. However, after adding a champion like Harima to the mix, we're just doing no damage, and we're getting locked out over and over again because we have a very fast Warlord here. Mortu Macabre is proccing his Peril, pretty much making this team useless, because Mortu Macabre is in a sense a good counter to someone like a Cupidus if it works. Right here it didn't work out. If he had no Harima on the team we're facing, he would kill them faster than they would kill Cupidus, and this would be a GG match, right? So this one took 1 minute and 7 seconds, but we lost. Was unfortunate we lost Rotos early there. I probably could have manualed, and as expected, I did not have Cupidus fully geared. Gloves, once again, so let me put the gloves back on. We need a Savage pair of gloves. Let's just head on over. Crit damage, Savage, what do we got? What do we got? We have 1 pair available, and we're not going to be able to crit cat. So let's go to equipped gear. Let's do this right if we are going to do it. Okay, not the best stats, but at least we're crit capped now. So let's head back in there and see what kind of damage a team like this is going to do once I have proper gloves on. So I do have to wait for the battle limit. With that being said, there's only one more content creator, being Nub Raids, who is using Harima. Thank you for doing that, by the way. Everyone else take note, content creators, use new champions in your defenses so we can make videos on it and people aren't left clueless or making terrible videos like we've seen so far on this new champion. So now we have proper gear. We're against a pretty tanky defense, to be honest with you. 3 stone skin or 2 stone skin? I didn't really see. But regardless, we're like barely making a dent, right? We're barely making a dent on this team. Harima's doing a decent bit of damage for sure. She's in stone skin, and we're just going to get whittled down slowly. So yes, we're going to get a few more procs here. Maybe we can do some damage. She still has stone skin on because she's very slow. So let's see how this ends up going. Yeah, we haven't even broke through. After all those attacks, still haven't broken the stone skin, which is kind of crazy considering the champions I'm using and the gear I have. Now, one thing to consider, of course, we are weak affinity against a champion like this, so okay, we got a lucky crit, so we did end up winning, but 54 seconds. This team, without Harima on it, we're winning in like 25 tops. So with that being said, what is this team based on all those other teams? And we are going to fight Smiley again, just to see what a properly geared Cupidus is going to do. We're probably, I don't know, I would say still going to lose, depending on the Mortu Macabre procs, but the main, okay, so weak hit, that was actually really good there. We didn't lose Rotos right away, which is the plus side, but the point is I'm about to show you a team that's going to beat all of the teams that we're either winning in over a minute on or we're losing to. I'm going to show you a situation and scenario where we're winning in like 20 seconds with Harima on it. And it's pretty self-explanatory. It's something, and it's a meta that's slowly been worked into the mix here. So I don't think it's going to shock too many people, but it is quite interesting to watch for sure. But just based on how strong it is and how much of a counter it is this on purpose as far as Plarium goes? I honestly can't say. Are they trying to make Arena more diverse, prepping for the alleged year of PvP that we're supposed to see? I honestly couldn't tell you. I really couldn't. 467k, by the way. Now that was a huge hit for sure here. So we did win, like I said, 1 minute and 9 seconds. Getting back to my other point, it's just taking way too long. Now that may not seem like a long time to you guys, but trust me, if you're playing at the platinum level and you're on reset and you're taking a minute to kill teams, you're probably not placing too well. So with that, let's go ahead and fight these teams again. We have Mad Rats, Smiley. Can we get Nub in the same raid? We cannot. So now let's use the team that I'm talking about that counters the absolute hell out of this team. And it's right here. We have Arbiter, we have Warlord, Astrolith, and then Vizier. What are we going to do? It's quite obvious. Apply the bombs that require no accuracy, spread it to the whole team, lock the cooldowns. We don't really need Warlord for... Actually, for this team we do, because Mythrala is probably fast with a decent amount, if not a lot of resistance. 414k? Maybe, we'll see. So this basically comes down to locking out almost everyone on their team, making sure the bombs are applied and they go off, and it's just GG from there. So we click on Asuga to make sure she's the target, because if not, things will not be pretty. We spread the bombs, and here we go. Look at them dropping like flies because Harima's passive does not apply to bombs. Now, I am lowering the turn meter, which is unfortunate, but look, 16 seconds, where it was taking over a minute before. Like I said, is this a plan by Plarium to make us start using bombs more? Maybe. So now that we've attacked rats, instead of waiting for the cooldown timer on Smileys, let's just go ahead and find Nub Raids. Alright, here he is. We saw the battle beforehand. Now let's take a look with this bomb team. Who are we going to focus? Who doesn't have? Okay, so we're going to focus a Corn on the left here, bomb them, spread the bombs. He got crit and removed one debuff. We just have to wait for this champion to take a turn here. Okay, 13 seconds. I mean, it's pretty clear to see the difference, but we will keep on attacking these teams here. And the last one that we were waiting for was Smiley. Where are you, Mr. Smiley? Here he is, Smiley TK. So as we think about this, one thing to consider before I start this battle with Smiley is going to be how our meta's formed. A champion comes out like Harima, you figure out everything you can, much easier with the test server of course, but even outside of the test server, there are tons of great players who are going to figure out ways, and it all has to have a starting point. This is how metas are formed. Harima's built, someone finds out the perfect build for her. Then players figure out how to counter that perfect build, then the person who originally made that build figures out a way to counter the counter, and it just keeps revolving until something is completely refined and fine-tuned. Is it possible to do now? No, it's way too early. There is definitely not 4 perfect champions to pair with Harima as of right now. As far as what the best 4 are looking like, it's something like Mad Rat's team. If we can, let's try to refresh a few times to find them. This team is pretty close to what a perfect team would look like, simply based on what the current meta is now. Once more bombers start getting into the mix, this is where we're going to start taking off the stone skin gear, because it's going to be a real problem. And back to my original kind of first glance take on this champion, the best set for her, and for many players on the team, is going to be Swift Parry. Swift Parry was kind of phased out pretty quickly from the meta because Stone Skin became a thing. Now that there's a champion like this that's making Stone Skin kind of problematic to use, Swift Parry is going to become much stronger because this champion can hold her own against AoE nukers, which is definitely a problem for Swift Parry. Yes, it was great if you had Swift Parry, but the fact that you could just get one shot by a very strong +4 champion, and as I've mentioned in a few arena guides, attack champions are always going to be easier to build than defense-based champions. And I really shouldn't say defense, I should say more survivability-based. It's really easy to one-shot a champion in this game. It's very hard to not get one-shot. Stone Skin was like the cure to that problem right there, because that was the biggest problem in Platinum. So now that a champion's coming into the mix that prevents you from getting one-shot, Swift Parry is going to become that new meta again, as I originally had kind of guessed in that first video. So now let's go ahead and fight Smiley. We are going to attack the proper target here, which is going to be Warlord. Right, there we go. Now we're going to go ahead and spread. Okay, that's what we were looking for. Now let's go ahead and finish off Duchess. And this is going to be an easy set match. We did get the polymorph off, unlucky. Now we just have to do enough raw damage to seal the deal, and there it was. So 24 seconds with a polymorph, much faster. So even if you don't have the 4 champions that I'm using, if you do have a bomb champion, if you do have a debuff spread champion, that's going to be the key to your success if you want to face Harima and you don't just want to skip the battle. I highly recommend that you don't try to force your way through it unless people start building damage-based Harimas. If someone has a damage-dealing Harima, you just win. It doesn't even matter what team you bring. Defense down, AoE nuker, preferably attack-based. And then an attack buff like Arbiter, you can use 3 champions and beat any Harima team if people are going to be careless and just build it with damage, with crit rate, crit damage, all of that stuff, because it's simply just not going to be viable. It kind of defeats the purpose of the champion. Maybe she can hit hard, but she's never going to compare to a real nuking champion. So if you're seeing this and you have this champion, don't be discouraged either. Like I said, every time a comp or champion gets countered based on the current perceived best build for that, someone's going to figure out another way to counter whatever offense is being used, which would be bombs, and I kind of already hinted at that a little bit. You can kind of take my defense, for example, even though for some reason I'm not using Harima here. What I would do is I would swap someone like my Rhodos out, and I would take Harima, wherever she is, right here, and put Harima in. And this is going to help me out in a lot of ways. However, I would swap like this. So let's just go ahead and take a look at this team here. We have Harima, she's in Swift Parry gear, 94,000 health, decent amount of defense and speed gear. On top of Swift Parry, she also has 3 pieces of reaction gear. Next is going to be Mithrala. Mithrala's passive is going to be the key here. Increases this champion's resistance an equal amount to the accuracy this champion has. So we're currently at 500, 997. 997 resistance is kind of a lot. Plus we have Harima's aura, which is I believe 80, so we're over 1,000 resistance. So if you try to bomb this team and Mithrala doesn't get locked out or isn't able to take a turn, you're going to have those bombs pretty quickly cleansed from you. Now if you're faster than this champion, you get the bombs on and you're able to spread it. Mithrala is also wearing immunity gear, so these are the stats in immunity gear, so the bombs aren't going to be spread to her for one. And the next point's going to be there is no stone skin on any of these champions. We do have shield, so it's going to take more than that to bomb a team like this and succeed. So Duchess has 120,000 health, 4,500 defense, nothing crazy on the speed. What set she's wearing? She's wearing Swift Parry gear and she's wearing 3 reaction pieces. Same thing as Harima, but she's +2 in Awaken, so the stats are going to be better, of course. And finally, we have Ursula in a bolster set. So a team like this is a perfect example of how to counter the counter, so to speak, where raw damage dealers and AoE champions are going to have a very hard time cutting through this team. It's already been tried on this test server and it's taken well over a minute to do so. And if you try to bomb this team, you're not going to be able to one-shot them like I was doing to the teams that I was practicing against today, because no one here is wearing stone skin. You have the chance of getting sheeped twice if you do use a warlord against this team, and you're going to need a ton of accuracy to lock out someone like a Mithrala on top of things. So if those bombs go off and both Swift Parry procs, we're going to start reviving champions, and it's just going to be an endless cycle. If I had to guess, I would say 30 to 40 seconds with perfect RNG, no Swift Parry proccing. On the perfect counter team, as of right now, would be the fastest you could farm this team, which is pretty good. Do I think players aren't going to figure out how to do it in 15 seconds? No. Like I said, no defense is unbeatable, and this is simply an example of adapting to whatever the current counter is. So this is kind of being one step ahead of what people are currently doing right now with this new champion. Alright guys, that's going to conclude this video on Harima, how to counter her, how to counter the counter. I know it's kind of been back and forth, complex stuff, but even if you're not in Platinum, if you see this in Gold Arena, Silver, there are just so many things you can do with this new champion, because she doesn't just change it for people with the champion, she changes it for people without the champion, because they are going to start adapting. Assuming that the player base is going to slowly start gaining this champion, adding it to their rosters, whether it's defense or offense. And this is how meta changes form in the first place. So as always, if you enjoy this content, smash the like button, subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and I will see you all in my next upload.